That has been going on for quite some time now, and it is only fair we sit down and we know how much rights do women have, and do they have rights in the first place, and why do they need these rights in the first place. We shall also be tackling the issue of femicide, what it all entails. This is a discussion I'm sure none of us would not want to be part of. With me is a very beautiful, wise and talented young lady, and she will introduce herself before we start. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Neemandeti. I'm a lawyer, passionate about all matters law and justice, and particularly the protection of human rights.
Wow, that is awesome. And since you've mentioned human rights, let's just dive straight into it.
Yeah.
What is women's rights?
Okay, allow us to make the genesis of this conversation about foundational laws such as basic human rights. And I will make reference to the Constitution of Kenya, Chapter 4, Bill of Rights, which talks about freedom and fundamental rights of human beings, such as Article 26, the right to life. And what we need to realize is that these rights apply universally, irrespective of the gender. When we look at the Constitution, Article 26 states that every person has the right of life. And when you go further to 26.3, it says that a person shall not be deprived of life intentionally except to the extent authorized by this Constitution or any other written law. Therefore, it just shows that this right to life applies to every human being on the basis that they are human, not on the basis of gender, and it ought to be protected.
So why do we have women rights? Like, why are their rights set aside from human rights?
So the reason why over time there has been a need to come up with specific rights that are angled towards protection of vulnerable groups, and I will say vulnerable groups because you'll find certain aspects have made them to be vulnerable. For instance, when we make a reference to women and we look at one thing like systemic norms that we inherited from the colonial times, when we look at retrogressive culture practices that put women at a disadvantaged position, the patriarchal society, a male-dominated society that ensures women are not empowered socio-economically. And that is why we get to a point where we need to advocate for rights of the vulnerable group, and women are part of that group.
What happens to the boy child if we now sit down and decide that women are to be seen as a marginalized group or a special type of group? What about the boy child?
We have to acknowledge that when we look at even some of the international conventions that were made for women, for instance, when we look at Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the United Nations Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, the inception of these laws was way back 1979, 1974, 1980, and this was a time frame where women were marginalized or referred to as vulnerable. And because of that, that's when we came with these laws. But we have to acknowledge that over time, the narrative has always been to empower women at the expense of men, which I believe we will talk more about it later at the end of this discussion.
All right. So the question or the narrative or the main issue that has brought this even to us having this conversation is the ongoing femicide. Before we can even talk about what it does, what it is, can you please define to us what femicide is?
Femicide can be defined as the direct or targeted attack, violence, killing specifically against women. When we define such a term that does not feature in our legal framework, we need to look at like what are the pillars that ensure or what are the pillars that prove it is femicide, and what pillars differentiate it from an offense like murder. So one, there must be an intentional target toward a particular gender, and that is women in this instance. There must be aspects of discrimination against a particular gender. So the only thing that differentiates the terminology femicide and the terminology of murder is you'll find that femicide is a gender-based, gender-related act of violence. Yes.
Okay. So let's maybe a little bit on the killing spree. There's killing, there's murder, there's manslaughter. Would you kindly give us some brief explanation of what that is, the difference between murder or first degree murder, manslaughter, etc.?
Okay, the difference between murder and manslaughter, you'll find that the basis is, the end result is killing, taking away of life of a human being. But what makes it different is that for murder, there was something we call malice aforethought. Okay. You sat down, you planned. And when we look at evidence maybe brought in court in a murder case, you'll find that the perpetrator of this offense has been taking steps just to execute this kind of offense. But manslaughter, there is no malice aforethought. Okay. You didn't, we can't say it was premeditated for you to kill this person. An example can be, we go to, there is an instance of shooting, a random shooting. And you get to the scene of the shooting, and unfortunately a stray bullet locates you. Let's say it was from a police officer or even armed robbers, and the stray bullet locates you. It was not meant for you, but you were just caught in the shootout. Okay. Therefore, that when you are dead, it's killing, yes, but it can't be murder because they didn't sit down and premeditate to kill you. Me. Yes.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about femicide, this is the killing of women specifically, and it is targeted towards them. Yes. Not killing like somebody was robbing you and you died. No, no, no. Premeditated for you as a woman, right? Now that it is not there in our penal code, with the ongoing demonstrations, oh, femicide, 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 who are these words targeted to?
To begin with the recent happenings, one solution that we need to talk about is one, the government has been silent about it. It does not exist in our legal framework. So what do we need to do? The first thing is that the government needs to declare femicide a state emergency. Therefore, they will come up with immediate and long-term plans to ensure that it is curbed completely. The second thing that can happen to ensure that we fight it effectively is come up with the definition of femicide in our legal framework. What is femicide? What constitutes femicide? And let's criminalize it in the penal code. Let there be a sentence that once you kill a woman, once you do a killing targeted specifically because she is a woman, what is your sentence?
Don't you think that the killings going on are more of a moral issue and not really having femicide put in place as in a penal code? Don't you think just having moral standards put straight will curb this issue?
I would like to assume that all of us have morals, but we don't. That's why you find that there is supposed to be a general application of laws, such as law against murder. We have to uphold the right to life. But once we look at societal norms and the cultures that we've talked about that put women at a vulnerable position, and you find that when we look at power dynamics, you'll find that when it comes to men and women, there's a shift in power dynamics, and it puts women at a disadvantaged point. That means we have to come up with laws to advocate for the rights of this group that has been disadvantaged. That's why I feel we may talk about murder, but once the killings are only targeted based on gender, then we need to come up with a law that deals with that.
And do you think by coming up with this law, do you think it will actually have an impact? Because most of these killings are happening by people who love each other, quote unquote, because they can't prove their love. But these are people who claim to have loved each other, people who know each other, or 90% of the cases are entanglements in the umbrella of love. That is that something, how can we get into the houses of people and try to eradicate this vice?
I understand where that question is coming from. And I would respond by saying that gender-based violence is, most of the time, it falls under domestic violence, where the nature, the setting of such crimes are of a domestic nature. It is between a husband and a wife. It is between two lovers. It is between an uncle and a cousin or a niece. It is between a sister and a brother. Therefore, you find that it's of a domestic nature. It is of a domestic nature. Yeah.
So how do we tackle that? How do we get the law inside the family setting?
Good. So that is beyond just coming up with laws. I would say that a tree is only as good as its roots. So what is the root cause of this problem? We have to deal with that in order to even change, because we can come up with laws, but if we don't ensure that the people are sensitized enough to respect the law, then nothing will happen. There is a phrase that has been going around during this time of the femicide killing that says, not only are you required or to protect your daughter, but you are required to educate your son. So what are we saying about the boy child? How are we changing the narrative from the retrogressive cultures that they were taught? So once we change that and men get to know that they ought to respect women, that they ought to value women, that just because I'm a woman, I'm not of lesser value. I do not deserve to die because you are stronger than me when it comes to power dynamics. So we have to address the root cause of the problem by looking at how are we educating our sons. That brings us back to an issue we had mentioned earlier on women empowerment, and now that we have focused so much on that, maybe the narrative needs to change. What about empowering the boy child? Once we tackle that, I believe then we will end all these cases of femicide.
Now that we're talking about the rights of women, where does this leave the boy child?
The boy child has not been left aside. When we began talking about foundational laws, fundamental rights and freedoms, we stated that they apply universally. Therefore, the rights of men are still protected on the basis that they are human beings, not on the basis that they are men, not on the basis that I am a woman. The Constitution and all laws that are put in place, other than those that are specific for women or children or persons with disability, are to apply universally on the basis that I am a human being.
Is it safe to have laws that are for the men on the basis that they are men?
Once we look at how the society is, and we get to a point one day where maybe the woman is too empowered than the man, and the killings are reversed, then definitely we will have to have that conversation where we look at how are we making an extra step beyond what is already in place to protect the man.
But we have been seeing lately of cases where men have been victims of gender-based violence. And I'm saying gender-based violence is by this I mean men who have been either mishandled, still in the same umbrella of family. I remember there was a time or there was an instance where Kenya, just as femicide is famous now, men were complaining, and sorry to say, but women from Nyeri were out there beating the men or their husbands. Nothing was done about that. There was no uproar. In fact, it was a laughing matter. Do you really think, don't you think that the fact that we laugh when it's the men's time to cry, that is the main reason why this femicide is high right now?
I beg to differ, because there are laws that are put in place generally for domestic protection against domestic violence. We have the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act, and it covers instances of not only wife battering, but also husband battering. So it's there. It's just that the society, it's not the norm for a man to be beaten by a woman. It's not the norm for a man not to be in control. That's why we will laugh about it. That's why we will take it not seriously. But when we look at efforts that have been made in our society, I believe even when we go to hospitals where they deal with people who have been domestically violated or they have been hurt, when we go to the police stations, you'll find that unlike back then where you just report openly, now they're required to have a specific desk where you are able to air these issues without discrimination. Therefore, it's not just women who can air these things, but also men have the right and the power to come forward because they're protected under the law.
And is it something that can be taken to a court of law?
Yes.
And contested upon?
Yes. Any crime against any human being is penalized. For instance, crimes against an individual, crimes against the person, murder, manslaughter, theft, assault. I have the right as a citizen of Kenya to take this matter forward and get justice. So it's not just women who get justice for these crimes that happen against them. Even a man, by the basis that they are a citizen of Kenya, the Constitution of Kenya allows them to go forward and report these matters.
And now, since these laws have already been put in place and we can clearly go approach a judge or approach a bench and air out our frustrations, why is it not safe, or why is it not enough that even for the cases that we're seeing right now, ladies, women dying under the hands of men, why is it just not enough to go to the same courthouse and report the same issue expecting the same result?
What we have to understand is that in order to execute a matter, there's a whole process.
Okay.
You begin with making a complaint at the police station. The police does their investigation.
Of course.
A matter is instituted in court. A criminal matter is instituted in court. And once you follow the due process, you get to the final stage of sentencing, judgment is given, and your rights are upheld. Therefore, I think what I would say is that if every citizen gets to know their rights, because I feel ignorance is what makes people not know what they're supposed to do. I don't know my rights because I'm ignorant. I don't know what to do when my husband slaps me. I don't know what to do when they have strangled my child. I don't know what to do when the uncle has raped the niece. So what you need to know is that ignorance has to be dealt with through civic education and also personal initiative by people. You need to understand your rights as a human being, as a Kenyan citizen. You need to be empowered by knowing I have a right under the Constitution to be protected. And once you know that, I don't think anybody can take advantage of you.
So now that we know that we have that power, once we know that the Constitution is here for us and not to fight us, even as the ladies are out there uproaring, why try to introduce femicide in the penal code and not just fight for your right as a human being that has been infringed? The right to life has been taken away from Rita Waini, from Scarlett, from all the numerous number of women that we have had. That's the right of life, right? It has been taken away from them. Why did we fight it from that point of view instead of taking it and cornering it and giving it the name femicide? What makes it different?
It's just what we talked about when we began. Women, children, persons with disability are considered vulnerable groups, and therefore there has to be more effort to protect them. That's why there are rights for children under the Children Act. The persons with disability have more privileges than us who have no disability. Similarly for women, where the society has proven that the recent killings are targeted to women, that puts us at a disadvantaged point. Therefore, we need to come up with such laws to protect us. That's why we cannot say having murder in the penal code is enough. It's not enough. Once we see that the societal norms are changing and women are being targeted, then let's address the issues of women. I doubt we'll ever get to a point where the man is the weaker being, but once we also get to that, we will also have that discussion.
What happens to women who are unaware of these rights, or they know, but they're afraid, they're scared? They're like, even if I report this person who's depressing me, or oppressing me, sorry, if I report this person who's oppressing me, I take it out to court, I'm not rich enough, I'm not well connected enough, I don't think I'll have that presentation that I think I will get, being not only weak in terms of me being a woman, but weak in terms of me being poor. What would you say to them?
I just like us to look at an article in the Constitution. When we talk about the supremacy of the Constitution, the Constitution says that this Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic and binds all persons and all states' organs. Therefore, that is to mean that it binds everybody. No one is above the rule of law. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, the hand of the government is long enough to get to you. Therefore, no one should feel that I am limited because of my finances. The law still covers you. You are protected by the basis of you being a citizen of Kenya, not on the basis of your financial status.
Is it enough? Is adding femicide as a penal code or into the penal code, is that enough? Will it solve something? Will it reduce something? Will it have any impact?
It's not enough, but it's a step in the right direction.
What else needs to be done?
As we said earlier, let's start with the root cause of the problem. The tree is only as good as the roots. Let's deal with that. Let's educate the boy child. Let's empower the boy child. Let them know that in their empowerment, they're able also to deal with women who are empowered. Because you find that all these years we've been talking about the woman. And that's why I feel these killings, a reason to these killings is a retaliation from the boy child. The woman has been so empowered. The woman is educated. The woman in the social economic sphere, they are well off. So when the man comes in the same position they were in the beginning of this conversation, they are not empowered. They don't know how to deal with this new woman. We are not the same people we were
years
back
ago.
then. We are not the same people who took those retrogressive cultures. Women have evolved. Women are speaking up. Women know their rights. So it's a shock for men because they know nothing else other than to retaliate with violence. So we need to empower the man so that they are also able to deal with the empowered woman, have a conversation with them. They are not intimidated, for lack of a better word, by the woman. So once we do that, I think we'll be able to deal with the root cause. Another thing that I would suggest is equality in the creation of laws. Over time, we've talked about the one-third gender rule when it comes to governance positions, and I cannot say that there's nothing that has been done. There's so much that has been done for us to achieve that. But I would like us to advocate more for women to speak up more on issues that affect them. Only the wearer of the shoe know where it pinches. Therefore, if it is a woman who's in parliament creating a law that protects her and other women, she knows exactly what it means. She sets the tone for that law. And in that way, at least we will have laws that speak to the women.
What part can the woman play? Because I've heard you said the boy child needs to be educated, right, and how to live with the empowered girl child. What about the girl child? Is there anything the girl child can do in light of the present femicide attacks?
Protect your daughter, educate your son.
How do we protect? Let's
deal with the first part, which is protecting your daughter. Women, we need to be proactive. We need to be careful. We need to be vigilant. Let's take the first steps of security because it begins with us. Do not put yourself in a compromising position. Always ensure that you're secure at all times. If you're meeting someone, if you're going somewhere, your safety is key. Therefore, you have to be vigilant when it comes to your own security. The second thing that maybe women ought to do is go easy on the boy child. Be a little bit relaxed to the boy child.
I like that.
We are too empowered. And I like what Dorcas Gashadi is doing in different parts of the country to empower the man, to protect the seed. She's bringing back power to the man. And once also women see that men are equally important, we are not as vulnerable as we were. We are empowered. Therefore, let's also not leave the boy child behind. Let's deal with them in such a way that they are able to deal with an empowered woman. Let's not intimidate them too much. But men, on the other hand, the boy child needs to be empowered, be strong enough to deal with an empowered woman. Only iron sharpens iron.
True word. So what are your final words and final thoughts on all this?
To end and conclude this discussion, let me say the following. Number one, femicide is a reality in our society. Femicide is a reality in Kenya. Let the government and let the stakeholders take steps to end femicide. The second thing that I'd like to end with is this. Let us stop blaming the woman. Blaming the woman is affirming the murderer. Let us stop blaming the woman. The third thing, everyone, the church society, the government, Muslim society, everybody in this country needs to get into the battlefield and fight against femicide. Stop killing women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was an honor to have you on the show today. And with that, we have come to the end of today's Know Your Law edition. Today, we were tackling women's rights. My name is Consolata Chibalonza. I wish you nothing but a good night. May the Lord bless you. Until next time, God's peace.